Hey, you guys, welcome to another great lesson for today of Algebra 1. Today's lesson is 8.9, the quadratic formula and discriminant. Now, long time ago, during class time, I mentioned about the discriminant. And yes, this is the part where we're going to be working on the discriminant section, okay? Today's vocabulary word, discriminant, quadratic formula, number sense. Go ahead and pause it and go ahead and read over the vocabulary words so you could have a understanding of what's going to happen during this lesson. Okay, so let's go ahead and see the main focus of this lesson. So the main focus for this lesson is the quadratic formula. Now, if you have ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and a is not equal to 0, then you could apply this quadratic formula. All of this is going to be considered your formula. So let's suppose you have an example. 2x squared plus 3x minus 5 equals to 0. Your a is 2, your b is 3, and your c is negative 5. All you need to do is substitute those values into the corresponding locations on those letters from the formula, and then calculate the information. You could either have two solutions or you could have one solution, okay? I will strongly recommend you watching those two videos on the back, on the bottom. They're very nice and fun to watch those videos. I'll put it in the link description below, so make sure you look into it before going to the next slides. All right, so go ahead and pause this and look at the other videos, a link below. I would strongly recommend you. It's also provided those links in the tutorials videos from this section of 8.9 and under Google Classroom. All right, so this formula, it's a long formula, and it's gonna take you a while to try and remember this formula. But if you're not too familiar with it, I would strongly recommend you to write it down in a piece of paper and keep practicing and practicing over and over and again. Now, the reason we have the quadratic formula is because there's going to be occasions that it's very impossible to find a certain solution when you're graphing it, when you're factoring it out, or you're completing the squared, or you're trying to do other methods to solve for solutions. And this is one way you could apply as well in order to find for your solutions. Okay, so let's jump into the practices. So what are the solutions of x squared minus 8 equals 2x? Use the quadratic formula. All right, so first things first, we need to set the expression as equals to 0. So we need to make this as equal to 0. We need to move the 2x to the other side. So we subtract 2x and subtract 2x. Therefore, we ended up with x squared. Make sure you put it in a standard form. Minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. Now, since we already labeled this expression as equals 0, our next step is labeling out. Do not rush in straight to the formula. First thing, do things slowly. Label your A. Your A is gonna be a 1. Your B is gonna be a -2. Your C is gonna be -8. Make sure you label those values first. All right, so with that in mind, let me go ahead and move this expression. Oops, not that one. Let me see, it's not letting me. Hold on, just give me a second. Let me put this in our lock. All right, there you go. Let's move this. Whoa. let's move this over here so we could have a little bit more space and write things down carefully. So our quadratic formula, we have x equals negative b plus and minus square root. We have b squared minus 4 times your a times your c all over 2 times a. Now let's go back to see if I didn't forget anything. Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac times all over 2a. Yep. All right. So we have everything here on the formula. Let's go ahead and plug in the values for it. So our b is negative 2. Notice we have a negative here. So negative negative turns into a positive 2. Plus and minus. You have the square root now. You have a 2. Sorry, negative 2 and then squared minus 4. Your a is going to be a 1. Your c is going to be a negative 8. All of this divided by 2 times your a, which is a 1. All right? Just do things very, very slowly. Don't rush, don't rush. All right. So let's continue here. You have a 2 here. You have a 2 here. Plus and minus, square root. Let's see what we get here inside. So negative 2 squared, you get a 4. Minus, let's put a, well, you have a minus and a negative turns into a positive. 4 and 8 turns into 32. And of course, times 1, it's just whatever you have. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 8 is 32. All right, so you have 2 plus and minus all over 2. Square root of 32 plus 4 is 36. Now we have what the square root of 36, since it's a perfect square, we have 2 plus or minus 6 all over 2. All right, so we had 2 expressions now, which is 2 solutions. We had 2 plus 6 over 2 and 2 minus 6 over 2. All right, 2 plus 6 is 8. Divided by 2, you have a 4. And then 2 minus 6 is negative 4. Divided by 2, you have negative 2. So your 2 solutions are 4 and negative 2. And that's how you basically do your quadratic formula. You just go through the process, substitute the values, and split them apart. In this section, you have the plus and the minus, and then you have your solutions. All right. Let's go ahead and practice this one more time. Let's move the 21 to the other side. So your expression is going to be x squared minus 4x minus 21 equals 0. The reason we have minus 21 because we subtracted 21 on both sides to make this expression as 0. All right. Our next step, label. Don't forget. Your A is going to be 1. Your B is going to be negative 4. And your C is going to be negative 21. It's a large number. Let's go ahead and write that formula. You have x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4 times your a, your c, all over 2 times a. Let's substitute the values into the quadratic formula. Our b is -4, and we have a negative, so negative negative turns into +4, plus and minus. Your 2 times your a is just 2 on the bottom. Here, you have -4 squared minus 4, 1 times -21. All right. Notice I skip a little section, but you could just do times 1 because a is 1. All right. All right, so let's continue. You have a 4 plus or minus 2 square root. -4 squared will give us a 16 minus, well, minus and minus turns into a positive, so negative negative turns into positive when you multiply them. What's 4 times 21? Well, that's gonna be a 4 and an 8, 84. Perfect. All right, let's continue doing the math. It's simple addition and subtractions, divisions also. All right, 16 plus 84, we have a 0. That's a 9 and 1 more, that's 100. Yes, let me just double check. Plus 16, yeah, it's 100. So the square root of 100, we have 10 because it's a perfect square divided by 2. All right, so now we have our 2 solutions. We have 4 plus 10, then divided by 2, and 4 minus 10 divided by 2. So your first solution, 4 plus 10 is 14, divided by 2 is 7. 4 minus 10 is -6, divided by 2 is -3. So here you go, you have your 2 solutions for this quadratic formula. That's basically all you do. You just plug it in there into the formula, make simple calculations such as multiplication, addition, subtraction, division. Those are the basic skills of math. If you're not too familiar with it, then use a calculator as well, and yeah, you should be okay. So that's all you're doing for this type of finding the solutions. All right, so this is just methods of how to solve the quadratic equation. There are many methods for solving a quadratic equation. So you could do it by graphing, since we went over that in section 8.1, in chapter 8.1. Square roots as well. I think that was like 8.2 or 8.3. Factoring, we did that also factoring. Completing the square, that was a last lesson on 8.8. Quadratic formula, it's 8.9. So technically there are different lessons, and if you want to know how to do which method you prefer doing, make sure you go back to those lessons on chapter 8, so you can know more or less and review which one you will perform more the best. So this is just different methods. So when you're dealing with graphing, use, if you have graphing calculator handy, the square root, if you have the equation has no x terms. Factoring, if you can factor the equation easily. Completing the square uses coefficient of x squared is 1, but cannot easily factor the equation. Quadratic formula, use if the equation cannot be factored easily or at all as well. All right. Now let's talk about the discriminant. The discriminant basically it's you need to follow a certain formula. So this is your formulas. All of these are your formulas. When you have b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, then there's going to be two solutions. Okay. It means that the expression is going to cross the x intercept in two locations, here and here. If the discriminant is going to be equal to 0, then you only have one solution. It means that only touches once right there at the x-intercept. If the expression the discriminant is less than 0, then there is no solutions. No solutions. So those are the things that you need to remember. Now, this part of the discriminant, it comes from the quadratic formula. This inside part, this is going to be your discriminant. Okay, only that section on the inside. You don't need to do the square root or divided by 2a, nothing. Just that section is your discriminant, and that's going to tell you how many solutions there are. All right, so let's go ahead and practice this. We need to make the expression as equals to 0, and we need to find how many solutions are there. We don't need to specify the number, we just want to say how many of the solutions there are. So if we move the 5 to the other side by adding 5 on both sides, we have 2x squared minus 3x plus 5 equals 0. All right, let's go ahead and label it. Your A is going to be a 2, your B is going to be -3, and your C is going to be a 5. Just keep that in mind. Label it first before applying to the formulas. Now your formula for the discriminant is again your b squared minus 4 times your a times your c. All right. Your b is going to be -3 squared minus 4. Your a is 2 and your c is 5. -3 squared becomes a 9. 2 times 5 is 10, times 4 is 40. So 9 minus 40, you ended up with -31. Now this -31 is less than 0. We go back to this section. Anything less than 0, then you have no solutions. So in this case, no solutions. That's basically, that's all you're doing to find how many real solutions by applying the discriminant formula, and label it and plug it into the formula, and from there you just see how many real solutions there are. Let's go ahead and practice it one more time. All right. How many real number solution does 6x squared minus 5x equals 7 have? Let's move the 7 to the other side by subtracting 7. And we have the expression 6x squared minus 5x minus 7 equals 0. Let's label this. Your A is 6. Your B is -5. Your C is -7. Let's put into the discriminant. Discriminant b squared minus 4ac. Your b is going to be -5 squared minus 4. Your a is 6 and your c is -7. -5 squared will give us 25. And then you have negative and a negative will turn into a positive. All right, let's see, 6 and 7, that's 42 and 4. Well, since it's gonna be a large number, let's go ahead and use our calculator. 4 times 6 times 7, 168. Plus 25, 193. So this 193 is bigger than the 0. So that means anything bigger than the 0 is going to be 2 solutions. So here is going to be dos soluciones, 2 solutions. All right. And that's how you do it through the discriminant and finding out how many real solutions. Always keep in mind that when you're dealing with parabolas, there are only 3 options. It's either 2 solutions, 1 solution, or no solutions. Those are the only 3 options when you're dealing with parabolas. Okay. Let's go ahead and do one more. What are the roots of the equations? Now, sometimes they're not showing you the solutions. They just want to know the roots. So you could just easily apply the quadratic formula, which is x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times your a times c all over 2 times a. Our b is going to be negative 5 and another negative, so you have a 5 plus and minus. Negative 5 squared is going to give us 25 minus 4. Your a is 1 and your c is negative 2. I'm just keeping around. By now you should know what's going on, but I'm just plugging in the numbers mentally. And on the bottom you have a 2. All right, so let's go ahead and finish this. You have x equals 5 plus and minus, and a 2 here, square root. 25 plus 8. What's 25 plus 8? That's gonna give us, let's see, 33. So if we look at the answer choices, it's letter D. That's why it's very important to know the quadratic formula, because of the answer choices. It could be written in this expression. Let's do one more. Let's move the 1 to the other side to make this expression as 0. We have the 1 on both sides. All right, let's use the quadratic formula. You have negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times your ac all over 2 times a. Your b is going to be a negative 4 and another negative turns into a positive, plus or minus. So negative 4 squared will give us a 16 minus 4. Your c is it's a 1 as well, and your a is 1. So you could just leave it like that. Divided by 2. So you ended up with 4 plus or minus 16 minus 4 is 12. So therefore your answer is letter G. Okay. I just skip some steps, but if you follow along the formula, you plug it in the value slowly, you're gonna come out with this eventually. Okay. I want to say thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to watch the videos in the description below, and you guys take care. Okay, bye.